It's Thursday, May 12. In the headlines, NWC workers back on the job. Framework for electric vehicles to be sent to cabinet. And veteran broadcaster Barbara Gluden has died. Regionally, Nevis Premier fires back at Prime Minister Harris. And in sports, FIFA World Cup tour begins. Legendary commentator and administrator Chris Armand is dead. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Simone Absalom Gill. Normal operations have returned to the National Water Commission (NWC). A press release from the Commission's communication team states that an agreement was reached for employees of the NWC to return to work. More than 2,000 workers had been off the job since early Tuesday morning as part of industrial action led by the 5 unions representing the staff of the Commission to protest the outstanding reclassification from 2008 and their non-inclusion in the ongoing review of public sector compensation. According to Labour Minister Carl Samuda, an agreement was signed by the unions, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, and the management of the NWC after 16 hours of deliberations. On Wednesday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness commented that the NWC workers now have the attention of the government regarding their, quote, valid concerns, end quote. But Mr. Holness notes that he was concerned about the industrial action.
So I was a little bit concerned when an industrial action is taken and there was no notice given, so that we could put measures in place to ameliorate the effects of such actions. We're a little bit concerned.
He made the comments during the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation's leadership retreat in Trelawney. Mr. Holness says he's seeking the Attorney General's advice about whether the NWC workers are classified as essential workers.
I just need to know and understand that. It is the belief that we have, but we want to just confirm it from a legal point of view. Because Jamaica is still a country of law and order. So once we have established that, then we will know how to proceed in this regard.
Up to 95% of the NWC's roughly 600,000 customers were affected by water lockoffs. Dozens of businesses, government departments, and schools were forced to curtail their operations due to the strike action. Minister with responsibility for information, Robert Morgan, says Jamaica's airspace is not closed, but air traffic controllers are on strike over concerns over a reclassification exercise. He made the confirmation during a radio interview on Thursday. Condolences are pouring in following news that veteran broadcaster and theatre legend Barbara Gluden has died. Mrs. Gluden hosted Radio Jamaica's talk show, Hotline, from the late 1980s until her retirement in 2015. She was a former features editor at The Gleaner and a columnist at the Jamaica Observer. PBCJ understands that Mrs. Gluden died in hospital on Wednesday night. The Minister with responsibility for housing, Everald Warmington, says his team is working to regularize 120 households in Kingston and St. Andrew and St. James. He gave an update in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. We have more from Carla Thomas-Hewitt.
Minister Warmington says 6 properties are being acquired in Sandy Park as part of efforts to regularize squatter holdings,
which were declared under the Local Improvement Community Act, Amended Act. The properties are 2, 4, 6, 8, 8B and 10 Sandy Park Road. Steps will also be taken to acquire 12 properties in Stanville, Kingston 6, which were upgraded by the Minister of Housing in order to regularize the occupation of over 300 households, and 7 properties in Bottom Pen, Montego Bay, St. James, which were partially upgraded to regularize over 500 households.
He says housing units are being developed in Tivoli Gardens.
Building infrastructure works and the construction of 130 units at Rasta City's Housing Development, Tivoli Gardens, Kingston. The project, which is funded and managed by the National Housing Trust, is to commence in the last quarter of 2022-2023 financial year with a duration of 30 months and is currently at tender.
And in Canterbury, St. James?
The Canterbury relocation project includes construction of 86 two-bedroom apartments with related infrastructure at Albany and St. James. The project is set to commence in the last quarter of the 2022-2023 financial year with a duration of 36 months.
For PBCJ News, I'm Carla Thomas Hewitt.
The Housing and Works Minister also informed members in Parliament that work is set to commence on the construction of Jamaica's new Houses of Parliament and the development of National Heroes Park during Jamaica's 60th year of independence.
Phase 1 of the procurement of a contractor is advanced, and the procurement tender for work is expected to close June 28, 2022 for evaluation.
He also spoke of the development of a world-class park on a 26-acre lot in Portmore.
The concept includes hard and soft landscaping, walkable promenades and plazas, jogging trail, great lawns with amphitheaters, sports facilities, artistic features, commercial spaces, and parking facilities.
The minister was making his contribution to the 2022-2023 sectoral debate in the House of Representatives on May 11. Cabinet has approved the strategic framework for electric mobility, which will guide the introduction of electric vehicles in Jamaica. The announcement was made by the minister responsible for such matters, Daryl Vaz, during his contribution to the 2022-2023 sectoral debate in the House of Representatives on Tuesday.
We are now waiting on the fiscal policy framework, which we expect to come to Cabinet hopefully by Monday of next week. And once that is done, then we'll be in a position to actually outline to the country the new electric mobility policy. What I can say on that is that the manufacturers of these electric vehicles will not consider Jamaica or any other country until a policy has been tabled as a government policy.
Mr. Vaz says that an electric vehicle council has been established and will oversee and review any policies, legislation and regulations related to the deployment of EVs in Jamaica and comment and provide feedback on matters relating to the safety and sustainability of EV technologies contemplated for the country. Also, Minister Vaz gave an update on the public sector energy efficiency and conservation program, which he says came to an end in the fiscal year 2020-2021.
Not only did it end, but it achieved all its objectives under the scope included and not limited to the installation of AC retrofits at the Kingston Public Hospital, Jamaica Information Service, Tax Administration Jamaica, Donald Sangster Building, Montego Bay Revenue Service Center, Office of the Prime Minister, Ministry of Finance and Planning, the Blood Bank, and the National Public Health Lab. The installation of mini-split AC systems at 7 facilities, Jamaica College, Edna Manley College, St. Andrew High School, Montego Bay Community College, Monique Teachers College, Greater Portmore Police Station, and the Hart College of Hospitality Services, Runaway Bay Hotel. And finally, the implementation of the Energy Efficient Survey for the public sector workers has concluded a 73% awareness level.
He further notes that the government continues to roll out its energy management and efficiency program, which will reduce electricity consumption within health, education, and other public sector facilities.
The component includes a retrofitting of 80 government facilities with renewable energy and energy efficient interventions. These interventions include solar photovoltaic technology, LED lighting upgrade, and energy efficient air conditioning technology. The structural and electrical integrity assessment of 12 hospitals, 10 schools, and other public office buildings have been completed to support this effort. So, Madam Speaker, the 80 government facilities will be completed over the course of the next 2 years at a value of 30 million United States dollars.
He says the Energy Management and Efficiency Program is a collaborative effort between the IDB, the Japan International Cooperation Agency, the European Union Caribbean Investment Facility, and Jamaica's government. United States Ambassador-designate to Jamaica, Nick Perry, is in Jamaica. The update was given via the U.S. Embassy's Twitter account on Wednesday evening. Mr. Perry, who is 71 years old, is not likely to begin official duties here until he presents his credentials to Governor General Sir Patrick Allen and Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith. Mr. Perry will replace businessman Donald Tapia, whose tenure ended in January 2021. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris swore in Ambassador Perry on May 9, 2 months after the U.S. Senate confirmed him. He will be the first U.S. ambassador to Jamaica born in Jamaica. He migrated to the U.S. in 1971. Students of the Alias Valley All-Age School in St. Thomas are utilizing $600,000 worth of educational tools recently donated by the Guyana-Jamaica Friendship Association.
We are based in New York and we support the school. So far we have donated 16 laptops, we have 25 tablets, a listening center that has 6 headphones, and we have also given 2 microscopes to the school, and lots of books, educational materials.
The school's principal, Doreen Duffus-Dewey, says those items are not the only educational tools that the school recently received.
And of course, Telfa Inc. out of Florida has given us 10 desktop computers. We could not and cannot find words enough to say thank you. Thank you so much for thinking of us. We are a school in deep rural Jamaica, not getting much attention from anybody at all, and for you to think of us, we are grateful.
The Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, believes Jamaica and other countries are recovering well from the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic compared to other places. President Dr. Jean Leon says this is primarily due to the discovery of natural resources for some countries and the tourism sector. Dr. Leon was speaking from the Turks and Caicos Islands to launch the upcoming 52nd Annual General Meeting of the Board of Governors. That event is set for June 1 to 16.
What we've seen in 2021 was that resurgence of tourists coming back into the region. Now, that was maybe largely in part because nowhere else was maybe safe for. People were fatigued. They wanted to do something. You know, after you've been sort of kept inside for almost 2 years, you do want to go out. It's a natural human instinct. But the numbers came through, and numbers came through very well. So much so that, TCI is still riding on a crest of inflows of tourists all the way through to at least premier August or so of this year. So I think from that perspective, clearly TCI and others have benefited. Then on the other side, you have the Guyanas.
Motorists will have to pay at least $4.50 more in gas prices as of Thursday. Dinita Rodney has the details in this business report.
Motorists will pay $4.50 more in prices for gas today. 87 and 90 octane gasoline increased by $4.50 will be sold for $202.64 and $207.66 per liter respectively. However, automotive diesel fuel will see a 25 cents decrease and will be sold for $211.45 per liter. Ultra low sulfur diesel, down by 25 cents, will be sold for $200 $214.19 per liter. And kerosene, also down by 25 cents, will be sold for $184.31 per liter. Propane gas will see a $1.24 decrease and be sold for $78.51 per liter. Butane will move down by $2.44 per liter and be sold for $88.73 per liter. It is important to remember to be on the lookout for price changes, as marketing companies and retailers will add their own markups to these prices. Can inflation be beneficial? This was one of the thoughts discussed at the recent hosting of the Caribbean Economic Forum. Speaking as a panelist, Governor of the Bank of Jamaica, Richard Ball, shared his thoughts on whether or not it was possible.
Some amount of inflation is of use. It helps us to run a nominal GDP that is large enough to help suppress the ratio of GDP to debt, as well as it helps to stimulate the economy.
He also gave his views on appropriate targets for inflation, saying it depends on the country's development stage and policies.
What range of inflation each nation targets really depends on the stage of development and what their policies are. In Jamaica, we have a pretty high debt burden. And because of that, we run a major surplus on our primary balance, but also a small one on our fiscal balance. And that tends to be contractionary. So on the monetary side, we try to be more expansionary. We have brought rates down really low. Pre-pandemic, our rate was 0.5%, our policy rate. And that tends to be very accommodating and to allow businesses to expand and to grow.
Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Wednesday, May 11, the US dollar sold for an average of $156.30. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $120.09. The pound sterling traded for $192.49, and the euro sold for an average of $167.58. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Wednesday's trading session. The JSE index advanced by 667 points to close at over 400,000 units. The junior market index advanced by 3 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index advanced by 656 points to close at over 400,000 units, and the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 506 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 109 stocks, of which 47 advanced, 45 declined, and 17 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Blue Power Group Limited, Caribbean Producers Jamaica Limited, and Derrimon Trading Company Limited. Stocks declined for 1834 Investments Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and the AMG Packaging and the Paper Company Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, CAC 2000 9.5% Cumulative Redeemable Preference Shares, and CAC 2000 Limited. The following companies represent the overall volume leaders: JFP Limited with over 4 million units, Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with over 3 million units, and Future Energy Source Company Limited Ordinary Shares with over 2 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Clico Investment Fund was the sole security trading over 98,000 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Government of Barbados Bond Series B was the volume leader with 20,000 shares, followed by Barbados Farms Limited and Goddard Enterprises Limited, which traded 1,600 and 500 shares respectively. In market data for oil prices fell this morning as recession fears dogged global financial markets, outweighing supply concerns and geopolitical tensions in Europe. Brent crude was down $1.92 or 1.8% to $105.59 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude fell $1.79 or 1.7% to $103.92 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, the Premier of Nevis, Mark Brantley, says he and 5 other cabinet ministers were fired for standing up for their country and for, quote, what is right, end quote. In a series of posts on social media on Tuesday, Brantley says, quote, for the first time in my life I have been fired. I would laugh if this wasn't so serious, end quote. The sacked Foreign Affairs Minister was adamant that he and his colleagues had done right by the people of St. Kitts and Nevis by standing up to Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris, whom he accused of attempting to be a dictator. He continued in the posts, quote, I have not been fired for lack of performance because many locally and regionally have said that my performance as foreign minister has been exceptional. No. I and my colleagues have been fired because we decided that we will stand up for principle and for what is right, end quote. Mr. Brantley was among 6 government ministers who had filed a motion of no confidence against Prime Minister Harris. The Bahamas Defense Force is bracing for another influx of refugees from Haiti and Cuba in the coming weeks. More than 1,800 illegal migrants have been apprehended in Bahamian waters in the first 3 months of the year. Our news reports.
The RBDF Commodore telling reporters on the sidelines of an HMBS Flamingo memorial service that their intelligence points to a steady increase in the number of immigrants prepared to make the perilous journey.
Every 3 days, you can rest assured that we will get some intel of some migrant vessel leaving Haiti. And almost on a daily basis, we'll get intelligence of Cuban migrants or refugees who would have left the Republic of Cuba. And so there's a steady flow.
He went on to explain that the political, social, and economic conditions in Haiti and Cuba, coupled with a spike in violence in Haiti and an impending migrant policy shift in the United States, are all contributing to an increase in illegal migration. King says since the year began, more than 500 migrants have been intercepted in Bahamian waters on a monthly basis.
There has been a significant increase. Just overnight, April 29th to April 30th, the United States Coast Guard would have turned around and escorted 6 migrant vessels off the northern coast of Haiti. 3 of those vessels were the large freighter-type vessels, similar to our mail boats, which could carry in excess of some 300 persons.
King says the Bahamas continues to be a transit point for migrants, as 98% of vessels that were apprehended in the last 3 months were making their way to the United States.
The Barbados Secondary Teachers Union appears to be at loggerheads with the Caribbean Examinations Council yet again. This time it's regarding a request made to CXC for the release of broad topics to help students with their studies for upcoming examinations. BSTU President Marianne Redman charges that CXC has again failed in this regard, and she wants an explanation.
We are very concerned that there has not as yet been the release of broad topics for the students. If we have been fighting and have succeeded in getting that 3 weeks extension, that has been in concert with our understanding that the broad topics would have been released immediately. To have that extended time without the release of the broad topics is an absurdity. The students have to be able to focus on the areas that will allow them to do best in these exams. And the release of broad topics in no way compromises the validity, the reliability, the integrity of the exams. And it is something that international examination bodies have been doing for the last 2 years since the onset of COVID.
The BSTU boss says the situation again places students at a serious disadvantage. She explains that outlining the broad topics will not compromise the exam.
For example, we know that as hard as teachers tried, there's going to be some teachers and some students who have not been able to complete the syllabus. And if teachers, for example, have concentrated on topics that are not appearing on the exam paper, that could have shifted their focus for these 3 weeks of the extension so that they could have tried now to expose the children to those topics, to give them the best fighting chance. It also helps children to focus more readily on the topics that will come in the exams. You're not giving them the questions, you're giving them the topics.
In sports, Chris Armand, the legendary commentator and administrator who for more than 4 decades made a significant impact to horse racing in the Caribbean, has died after a brief illness. From 1975 to 1985, Mr. Armand's impact came in the form of commentary. He retired as Director of Racing at Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited back in 2020. Mr. Armand was also inducted into the Jamaica Racing Commission's Hall of Fame in 2017 and in 1993 was the recipient of the Caymanas Track Limited's Chairman Award. Mr. Armand was 67 years old. Rovmond Powell and the Delhi Capitals came out on top over Rajasthan's Royals by 8 wickets in Wednesday's India Premier League match. Sent into bat, the Royals posted 160 for 6 of their 20 overs, led by 50 from Ravi Ashwin and 48 from Devdutt Pidikal. The Capitals then reached a target of 161 for 2 thanks to 89 from Mitchell Marsh and an unbeaten 52 from David Warner. Powell was not needed to bat. The FIFA World Cup tour around the world has begun. It got its send-off from Qatar on Wednesday.
Over the last few days, thousands of people have queued up around Qatar to catch a glimpse of the FIFA World Cup trophy, the prize that will be played for by the teams later in the year at the first Middle East World Cup.
So we waited around 2 hours.
And why did you want to see the World Cup?
I just want to see because it's happening in Qatar for the first time. So it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see the World Cup.
We don't believe that is the original one, but they said this is the original one. So it's a very nice moment.
Did it live up to your expectations?
Yeah, too much.
Now, this is the last time we're going to see this trophy in Qatar until the opening match on the 21st of November. That's because from here it's going on a global tour, and Qatar gave it a big send-off with some special guests.
After 3 finals and 4 World Cups, I deserve to take the cup home.
What makes this trophy so special? Well, it is a piece of sporting history that is instantly recognisable. And this is the genuine article because the champions only ever get to keep a gold-plated version. This is the real deal that lives at the FIFA Football Museum in Zurich, and it only ever comes out once in 4 years for events like this one, as well as the official World Cup draw, and of course, the final. It's 18-karat gold, 36 centimetres tall, and weighs just over 6 kilos. And part of the allure is the fanfare that goes with it. It travels with a very strict security protocol. It has a special case, security guards, and 2 members of staff. And they're only able to touch it with gloves on. Now, you might think all of this is rather excessive, but FIFA have learnt from history. In fact, this is the second version of the World Cup, the Jules Rimet Trophy, which was more of a golden cup shape. Well, it was stolen twice, back in the 60s in England and in the 80s in Brazil, and unfortunately it was never recovered after that. So all of that really adds up to a feeling of being next to something very special indeed.
And that's the news on PBC Jamaica. Thank you so much for watching.